Hello, I'm Jaecen, and yup, the rumors are true. I was disowned from my family. Now, you may be asking what happened, and it's kind of a long story. Now, she may look like a child, but she's actually over 1,000 years old. Yo, we're supposed to be a doctor! Everyone knows the feeling of being disappointed. It's one of the worst feelings ever. Building up expectations, knowing that it's gonna be something great, only for it to come crumbling down can be really disheartening. And sometimes, you just have to accept the fact that this thing wasn't really all that it was leading up to be. Media is especially susceptible to writing the disappointment express. Movies, books, albums, but easily the media that gets the most buzz when it comes to disappointing are video games. So gather around, man children. We're gonna highlight some of the games that disappointed us the most today. Now, I'm not saying that all of these games are bad, but most of them are. Whether it's bad marketing, a rush job, or a game that's high quality but it didn't hit the marks that you wanted it to, you can clearly see why the games that fail to meet our expectations are so easy to ridicule. Sonic 06, the internet's favorite beating horse. Chances are you already know why this game isn't good. The bugs, the god-awful plot, the poor quality and lack of polish, the loading times, and even a hint of bestiality in there. Yeah, this game sucks, but it didn't have to. This was supposed to be the stepping stone into the next generation for Sonic. Previous games in the franchise, Sonic Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog, were met with lukewarm reception at best, and at worst, they're considered some of the worst Sonic games out there. So to see Sega and Sonic Team work on this next-gen experience that harkened back to the Sonic Adventure games was a good sign. I mean, they were putting emphasis on speed and no gimmicky characters, and the environments, they're beautiful! This is going to be the best Sonic game out there. Aside from the fire soundtrack, this game is a hate crime. It's insane Sega got away with releasing a game this buggy and rushed in its current state. Now that's something that wouldn't fly today. That would be son of a bitch. Cyberpunk 2077 is the reason why this video came to fruition. Because oh my god, where do I begin? After developer CD Projekt Red worked on the Witcher series, some of the most critically acclaimed RPGs of all time, especially 3. All eyes were on them when they announced their first IP outside of The Witcher, Cyberpunk 2077. Back in 2013, not much was shown except this teaser trailer, but it did have a release date, when it's ready. You call this ready? For a while, this game eluded people. For 5 whole years, there was nothing except this teaser trailer. But in E3 2018, that would all change when the first CG trailer and some gameplay was revealed during Microsoft's press conference. And the response? But the E3 the year after showed even more of what was looking like the biggest, most expansive RPG of all time. And how do you end a trailer like that? Oh, I don't know, you put Keanu goddamn Reeves at the end of it and you bring him on over to the Xbox press conference. Look at this, this was a standing ovation. And holy shit, a release date of the next year? This was going to be this gaming generation's swan song and a technical showcase of the power that these systems still hold. Keyword was delay after delay. As a wise man once said, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. That's the most fucking overused quote of all time. So it was coming April, September, November, December, Jesus Christ! And when folks finally got their hands on this game, maybe they should have left it in the oven until it was quote unquote ready. Riddled with bugs, glitches, and performance issues, especially on the consoles they were supposed to be on, Cyberpunk, unfortunately, didn't live up to the hype that it once had. I mean, just take a look at the performance on the base PS4. This is abysmal. The only way to truly enjoy this game is on a PC, but hell, that PC needs to be spec'd the hell out. Just think about the people who are playing this on PS4 and Xbox One. They get wooden mannequins for NPCs. Cyberpunk is a prime example of why you shouldn't let hype get to you. It's a buggy mess that can only be played on the best hardware, and even then, you're getting a subpar action game that's barely an RPG, a city that feels like a glorified loading screen, and $60 flushed down the drain over a rushed job. I mean, the plot is great and the premise is interesting, but when the game releases raw, you lose a lot of faith in the developers. Though the game is being patched throughout its life, the damage has already been done. Looking at old trailers of this game feels like you're looking through old photos of your spouse after a divorce. It's depressing. Now, Cyberpunk is the most recent example of a game failing to meet our expectations. What was supposed to be the last hurrah for the 8th generation and the genesis for the 9th quickly became a laughingstock of the internet. Now, that's not even mentioning the recent cyber attack that CD Projekt Red is currently going through. Truly, a fate worse than death. Now, you know what else is worse than death? I want my funeral to be funded by Indiegogo. Crowdfunding, a synonym for failure. There are so many games that failed to meet the expectations set up for them, and it's really a shame. Some developers probably don't even have the funds to make it, and to see them put all of this work for it to be not is tragic.
Notice that it says son there?
The problem is that most people bet on these games be the second coming of Christ. Star Citizen, Yacht Ventures, Yandere Simulator, but easily the highest profile to fail us more than a teacher is Mighty No. 9. Mighty No. 9 is a 2D platformer that's very similar to the older Mega Man games, specifically Mega Man X. Maybe it's because it's made by Keiji Inafune, who's practically the father of the Mega Man franchise. In 2013, Inafune announced the game and started a Kickstarter campaign for it a little after. So to have a spiritual successor to this beloved franchise after Capcom has done nothing with it, $4 million and a sluggish development cycle later, what do you get? You get an unpolished mess without the charm that made Mega Man the household name that he is today. This is one of the most soulless, boring, and depressing experiences I've ever had. The lack of care on Inafune's team in Deep Silver is visible. This is the first level, look at this! At least make an attempt to clean it up, but no! Hell, even the ads make fun of you for buying this game. There's no other way to describe it. It's as sad as an anime fan on prom night. Speaking of sad, here's Duke Nukem Forever. Duke Nukem is a series all about going bang at bad guys with crude 90s humor. If you thought Cyberpunk had a long development cycle, this game's was twice as long. 14 whole years of restarting development from scratch over and over again. Honestly, the game's development is more interesting than the game itself. I'm just gonna give the SparkNotes version here. The game was announced in 1997, essentially because they wanted to use the name Duke Nukem Forever. Little sparks here and there of the game would be spread throughout the late 90s and early 2000s, but the game didn't reach full development hell status until 2001. After 6 years, in 2007 the game got a new trailer, but nothing else happened after. That's because 3D Realms, the developer for the Duke Nukem series, downsized significantly and laid off a ton of their employees. Take-Two Interactive, the parent company for 3D Realms, sued them because they were incompetent. So here comes restart number 3. Gearbox Software was given the project and would be released under 2K Games. So after 14 whole years of waiting, we were supposed to get the magnum opus of the first-person shooter genre. And yeah, we got that. If it were the late 90s, with simple mid-ass FPS gameplay, its humor was all it had going for it. And even then, most people who played Duke Nukem back then had outgrown the crude and corny jokes. It's like listening to one of your favorite rappers when homophobia was the craze, and you listen to them now and you're like, no. It's not shocking or funny anymore, it's just tired. This whole game is tired. I'm tired. The last disappointment we're gonna take a look at isn't even a game, but rather a whole console. The Ouya, the little console that couldn't. Announced in 2012, the Ouya was supposed to be this ultra cheap gaming console that was meant to compete against the current mainstream ones at the time. For a whole $99, you get what's essentially an Android tablet that you could hook up to your TV. And honestly, I think the hype of a gaming console being so cheap is what grabbed a lot of people. However, what they don't realize is that they got exactly what they paid for. The reason why a PS4 was $400 at launch because it could run games like Infamous Second Son. That game still looks great 7 years later, but with the Ouya, you're running mobile games on the TV. Phones and tablets progress so much in just 1 year, and consoles are meant to have longevity. So by the time you bought this thing, you can't even play the flashiest new mobile games because the thing is already outdated. And let's face it, why would you want Android on a TV? I don't even want it on a phone, and you're expecting me to use a shitty console with an even shittier controller? And let's not forget the PR nightmare around this system, because oh my god. If you were an early backer, they did not give a flying fuck about you. And god, this interview with the Ouya CEO regarding the controller still makes me convulsed to this day.
That actually leverages the buttons and the touchpad, right? Because our controller has a touchpad. You're not going to find that somewhere else. And the reality is...
The new PlayStation 4 controller has a touchpad.
That's true. They could build it for that.
So...
The Ouya is emblematic of everything wrong with crowdfunding. A terrible console with an even worse controller with nothing you can't play on your phone or tablet. To the people who backed this, what were you expecting? Why did you pay for this? What's wrong with you?
Being disappointed in games is a lot like being disappointed in your kids. You watch them grow up and see them become a former shell of themselves. Well, maybe you should have introduced me to anime, Dad! Now, what are some games that disappointed you? I would like to know, but first, look, I will do more to contribute to society, but I'm trying to get back to my family!